and I'm going to be talking about breaking in. You can see my little disclaimer up there. I do suck at creating slides. I'm going to hope that my charisma will make up for my lack of PowerPoint skills. Um, the title of my slide is Breaking In. I'm really excited to do this talk during our intermission today, and I hope it's something that many of you are interested in. I'm going to pivot from talking directly about API security and instead talk about like my strategies that I implemented to, one, find out that I wanted to work in API security to begin with, but then how I actually got there, right? So a little bit about me. My name is Jesse Freeman. I'm a proud father of two. I work for APIsec as an implementation engineer, and my job is, in a few words, to facilitate our customers' onboarding of the APIsec product. I do a mix of like technical work and getting API endpoints to work, trying to break stuff, a little bit of red team type things, as well as like sales work, I guess you would call it. I'm also the Dean of Ambassadors at AU, which means I just run the ambassador program. Yeah, you can learn more about that in our Discord or by visiting the AU website and navigating to the ambassador page. And I do have links handy, but I'll post those at the end of the talk all together for everyone. And you can always DM me if you'd like them. Please feel free to ask questions in chat along the way. Keep in mind that while I'm talking about my story, I was always focused on like one mission for myself, which did not involve API security. That mission was just finding a career I was really passionate about in a field that I felt made the world a better place, allowed me to work from home so I could see my family, and allowed me to live like my desired lifestyle, which it really isn't anything special. Like I'm a pretty humble guy, but I figured if I could check those boxes, I was in the right place. And the reason I bring that up is throughout my career, I've developed a belief that your employer being a good fit for you is just as important as you being a good fit for them, right? And at least if you don't want to burn out. No, I haven't always worked in API security or cybersecurity in general. APIsec is my first job in the industry, hence the title. I don't have a college degree. I had no professional tech or security experience before being hired other than my own freelance work. And when I tell people that, they often have a lot of questions like, what did I do outside of work to make progress? How did I open the door to get an interview? How did I succeed in those interviews? And I want to talk about that today in hopes that I might provide some insight to others who might be on a similar journey. My first point is always be learning. Ryan, you mentioned you being a lifelong, or Brandon, excuse me, being a lifelong learner. And I think that's so critical. I learned all of these things you're seeing on screen here while working a full-time job and raising my kids and trying to be a present husband and all of that good stuff. Right. But, you'll see my career, like I said, it wasn't in tech, but I've been obsessed with tech since I was a kid. And I can't help but want to learn all these different things. So my main foundations were in web development. I got JavaScript as my baby language. My very first foray into anything related with this stuff was building little web games and stuff like that. And thank you, Sergio. That's really kind. I appreciate that. And my game design stuff is still a hobby of mine. And let me tell you, being a game designer will give you a lot of skills that you can use in any other field because you really have to wear a lot of hats if you want to be a solo developer. So yeah, there's my message, right? Always be spending time learning something that you can use to broaden your horizons. Let's talk about my work experience though, right? Let's talk about how my non-tech jobs contributed to me landing a job in tech. I'm also a badass freestyle rapper. Thank you, Dan. I'll talk a little bit about that later. I appreciate that. Um, so at Target, which is a large retail store, I started off doing like grunt work. Within a year, I was recognized for leadership abilities and I was promoted to like a middle management position. A year after that, I was promoted to senior leadership and wound up with like a key to the building at like just 23 years old. And it was honestly pretty awkward because I wasn't a very good leader yet. I was in charge of like 50 plus people at a time to make sure the whole store was running smoothly. This included customer service teams, logistics teams, pricing teams, and more. My learning in this role was that I began to see my ability to help people work together who didn't get much time to talk. Maybe they couldn't communicate due to language barriers. Hablo un poco español. Or they just actively don't like talking to each other, honestly. And this evolved into my belief that keeping disconnected teams on the same overall page is a superpower in any industry. Because I could see that as I closed gaps between these teams, the overall presentation of my store was skyrocketing and I was getting recognized for it, right? My next position after spending about 5 years there, I realized that I didn't want to work on Thanksgiving. I had kids. Retail wasn't for me. And I had started diving into full stack development pretty hard at that point using Angular. But then I got offered a position with my local government, effectively running a cash register and a weigh station at a garbage collection facility for like almost double the pay I was making. And so obviously I jumped at that. A year in, my boss retires, right? And I get promoted again against really tenured employees that had been there a long time before me. And at this point, I realize my leadership skills aren't a fluke, so I should start studying. I figure if I'm going to keep getting selected for these leadership roles, I may as well be really good at it. And if I had to share like one most valuable learning from that study, it's that creating an environment where employees feel safe being vulnerable is critical to the success of any organization. So if there's any managers in chat today, please chew on that. In addition to my leadership duties working there, though, I had to become an expert in Microsoft Excel. I was doing advanced data analysis on all of my county's waste streams, reporting that data to governing bodies, providing financial analysis on that data for administration, all while leading a team of 15 across 5 different facilities about an hour away from each other. And that team was responsible for collecting all of the data I was analyzing. I also acted as the liaison between administration and operations, where I was able to leverage my skills in managing relationships. And I developed them even further by connecting people who really, even though they were both speaking English, did speak different languages. I think, as we all know, in any industry, different areas of an org can have competing priorities, but they still have to come together as a team if they want to progress, right? You can just see a little bit of what I'm talking about here. Again, slides are just so you have something to look at. Most of the insights is in my words. But unfortunately, that evolved into a toxic work environment for me. I didn't get along with upper management. I didn't share ethical values with them, and I started, addition to my studying, I started looking for other avenues to get out of that organization, and I started making music. It had been a long time passion of mine, and I hoped that it would allow me to pivot out of that industry while also pursuing a passion, which was part of my mission, right? So after about a year of building an audience, I was offered like a once in a lifetime music deal that allowed me to quit my job, pursue music full time for a little while. A little over a year, I moved my family to a cheaper area, a new state where there was a budding music scene. I opened my own record label and recording studio. I helped run that while working full time as an artist, but I'm risk adverse. So while I was doing all of that, I jumped back into web development. I started studying React instead of Angular because React had surged in popularity. I have a full stack developer friend who's entrenched in the industry that I was able to leverage as a mentor, and my idea that if my music failed, which is, a lot of luck involved, I could fall back on working as a developer. And sadly, during this time, I realized that I didn't want to be an artist. Again, I was in an industry that didn't feel good to be in. I didn't like the people I was around a lot of the time, and that was really important to me. I wanted to feel good and fulfilled. I also began realizing that I didn't like, as I was freelancing, I didn't like developing for other people. I liked developing for me, but that was pretty much the extent of that. So, like, what do I do now, right? I'm basically like, I'm 30 years old. I'm back at square one. I don't know what I want to do, right? I've gone through all these different industries. Um, well, I sold my record label and moved back home because family first, right? That's first thing. I kept looking for developer work despite disliking it because the money was there and I needed it. And I also stumbled around bug bounty at this time in one of my like hobbyist game dev communities that I frequent, and I fell in love with it. I realized that I wanted to pivot away from development and become like a red teamer of some kind, a pen tester, a bug bounty hunter. I wanted to break stuff. I didn't want to build it. I went through this typical bug bounter journey over the course of about a year or so, studying all the books, reading Corey's book, hacking on random programs and whatnot to minimal success. And I realized that I needed to zero in on something and become a master at it. So I was always drawn to API endpoints while doing my hacking, and like looking for IDORs and stuff. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to become a master of API security. And that is what wound up leading me to APIsec University. And that was where my door finally opened, right? Purple team. Yeah. I recommend everybody purple team. Build something before you break it. It makes breaking it way easier. Anyway, as a self-taught individual with like a really wide scope of experience, I really recognized APIsec U as like a cut above the rest content-wise, especially at the price point of free. And like I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have stumbled upon something that for me at that time in my life was like a key to the next goal in my mission, right? I saw that they had a Discord, and I felt that it would be a really good way for me to give back, and I could answer questions about courses in there and reinforce my learning in that way. Right. And that was actually a piece of advice I got from a pen tester friend of mine from a different community who just said, dude, just be super helpful in the communities that you want to work in, and somebody will notice you and you'll get a job. And I was like, all right, well, I filled out 70 million applications and I've gotten 2 responses. So, what's the worst that can happen? So I made this commitment and goal to myself that I was going to start answering all of the course questions in our Discord, right? I was going to be the first one to answer 7 days a week, all hours of the day, right? Just vigilant, going crazy on it. And after a few months of that, Dan actually reached out to me, just to say thank you for all my hard work and supporting the students. And I kind of took a chance at that point to like shoot my shot and say thanks to Dan, let him know what my goals were. On the off chance he might hear, about a role that was a good fit for me, right? And literally, I laid it all out on the table. And about 30 minutes after this conversation, I got an email from Christine, who many of you may know. She's currently behind the scenes making sure all of this runs, and is amazing. And she was setting up a meeting for us to talk in Zoom to yeah, they are. Yeah, thank you. That's my music. Yeah. To set up a meeting for us to work together. And like my door was opened at this point, right? I was talking to people who were actively wanting to help me find a job effectively. Like they wanted to see me succeed because of the type of person that I was showing that I wanted to be. What were those interviews like? They weren't interviews, they were just talks. Going through the interview process at APIsec was unlike anything I'd experienced before. They didn't call them interviews, they were just talks with people. The people I spoke with were so friendly, but obviously extremely intelligent, experts in their fields. And as someone with no like professional experience and only my self-taught skills, I was really nervous, but I knew I wanted to work here. So I started preparing for them, right? And like after grueling late nights of Googling, how to be successful in interviews, what I should expect, which FY all wound up being completely useless. I decided that like a coding and hacking challenge is unpredictable. I'm either going to pass that or I'm not, knowing what I know, right? Can't stress out about it. So what I need to do is be upfront about how I generate value as an individual and what skills I have so they can figure out where I fit into their organization. So let's start with my general advice that I suggest to people in every situation, right? First is be confident in knowing what you don't know and always try to have an idea of where to look for the answer. This is extremely valuable in every position you'll be in. People don't want to be lied to. They don't want BS. They don't want anything that's going to waste time. If you don't know, let them know. To understand your strengths and opportunities and how you leverage those strengths to support your opportunities. There's a couple of mine on the screen for examples for you. I'm good at facilitating collaboration. I'm a lifelong active learner. One of my opportunities is I lack depth in any one technical area, except for maybe a few like JavaScript I'm pretty good in, APIs I'm now pretty good in. But because I'm so, spread out, like the depth really isn't there a lot of the time. And then, understanding how my strengths support those opportunities, right? And how they create value. There's an A/B for you. How do I support my opportunities? Well, I use my skills as a collaborator and my ability to learn quickly because I've spent so much time practicing learning, that when I have a need for depth, I jump right into it and I figure it out in a quick manner, right? And how do I generate value? Well, as we know, having a skilled facilitator on your team will prevent loss of sales due to miscommunication or poorly managed expectations. If you have someone keeping the dots connected and keeping people happy at the same time, you're going to do better business. Do I like YAML? Dude, I like anything that makes my application work or my product connect. I don't care if it's Swagger, whatever. Um, uh, so I had 4 interviews, right, or talks with APIsec. One was with marketing, one was head of product, head of engineering, and then one with the CEO. And you can imagine a lot of the duties that I discussed as I went through this process, with all these different departments. Like I was going to be wearing multiple hats. It was expected of me, and I didn't have an issue with that. It's like one of my other strengths, right? I've worked in so many industries. Obviously, I've worn a bunch of hats. So how did I sell myself? Well, it's right here on screen for you. I can provide these slides if anyone cares, but the gist of it is I highlighted my strengths every single chance I got. I exhibited my knowledge about API hacking and the APIsec product as much as possible in conversation. And it wasn't like shoehorned, right? I asked questions to expand my knowledge beyond what I could already, learn on my own, showing my proof of learning. I leveraged my wide range of experience of as examples that I'm resilient and adaptable regardless of the workload you're throwing at me. I'm highly teachable. I made it obvious I was a lifelong learner. I wasn't satisfied with sitting still, and you need that in this field. I wasn't shy about my passion. I genuinely love hacking APIs. I made it obvious. I genuinely love APIsec and the product. I made it obvious. And not only did I make it obvious, I talked about specifics as much as I possibly could. So it was clear that my passion wasn't manufactured. I actually knew what I was talking about. I was completely open and honest about how I'd approach all the hypotheticals they handed it to me. And I explained exactly what I would do with confidence and asked for immediate feedback on my strategies, right? No, like, oh, I do it this way, and then they go, okay, move on. Don't give them the opportunity for that. Let them know, that you care if you did good right away. And then I made it clear that while I am confident in myself, I don't keep my ego involved at work, right? I would much rather be told I'm wrong and corrected so that I can show up for the organization. There's no room for me to think that I'm smarter than somebody else in a world that's changing every single day. And at the end of this process, I was deemed a good fit for the team, right? The CEO told me I was highly passionate. I was a good communicator. I was well rounded. I was lacking depth, but easily teachable. He informed me that he felt I had really high potential for growth, which is something I hadn't really heard before, honestly. And that was great, right? It landed me a 30-day trial period to show APIsec what I'm capable of. And I've been working here for like 3 months now, and I help handle accounts worth over 6 figures a year, and I love it. Right, so like from just over the course of 3 months, that's how far I was able to come in this industry, just by leveraging the things that I learned along the way, and by staying aligned in my strategies. And so my conclusion is just that I hope that sharing my journey and my strategies with you guys that are trying to break into the industry today might have given you a new lens of hope if you're feeling discouraged. I don't want to get emotional, but like, the process of even figuring out what I wanted to do took me like 10 years, and then breaking in took me another two. uh, it's hard.
Yeah.
Everybody's journey looks different.
This is amazing, Jesse. Thank you for being so honest and
Yeah,
sharing so candidly. I think and I can just watching the chat, people are just absolutely mesmerized by your talk. You're such an impressive guy.
I appreciate it.
And what I love about your journey is the way you got active in Discord. Like, I didn't know who you were, what you
Yeah,
looked like, where you came from, what part of the world, what your education was. It didn't matter one bit, right?
yeah,
Like, this dude is amazing, and, how could you not wanna be with someone like that?
yeah.
And the key ingredient there is passion, like, that's the
Absolutely.
thing, right?
Even interviewing with our CEO Faisal, right? He's telling me straight up, like, if I looked at your LinkedIn profile, I would have talked to you in a million years, right? He's like, I just had no idea. But then when you take the opportunity to really show people what you're capable of, there's no arguing with that.
Ugh, amazing. Well, listen, we gotta keep on track. I think we're
Yeah,
gonna have to just bring you onto more sessions, honestly, because it's such an interesting thing, and thank you
thanks,
for
man.
sharing everything
My
with the
pleasure.
group, Jesse. Alright, we'll catch you later, my friend.